always forget this. Is it Solander? The J just always
Close.
messes me up.
You know what? The J actually messes a lot of people up, but if you
Yeah.
just replace the J with an H, you got it.
Sjolander. Deanna Sjolander, ladies and gentlemen. Spanish?
No, it's actually the name is Swedish, but
Okay.
my family, I guess, hails from Oslo, Norway. I have some fourth cousins there, apparently.
Yeah.
I haven't met them, but that's where my grandfather hailed from. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I just like, again, looking at my name, it's just like, it's always one of those things where, you know, so like I said, we're not going to get, like, we were talking a little bit about the pressure cooker of the last 3 years. So in my case, this was my second apocalypse. My first one was much more personal, much more personal. I had been starving and wondering what I was going to do in Arizona because I had gone through a very, very hard time. And I had my first little brush up with my mortality and shadow death. And I don't know where you are in the metaphysical realm of things, but here's the thing. I've already kind of faced my mortality. So from the point of view of what the pandemic was trying to do in terms of fear, I was immune because I've already seen my own mortality in the face. It's really hard to traumatize somebody about your mortality if you've already accepted that one day it can't be done. You get annoyed with it a little bit because now you're just seeing everybody else coming face to face with this, and you're like, "What the fuck?" Right? Right. But you personally, it doesn't hit you that way. What I've noticed is this is the thing. So, for lack of a better term, I decided to look up menticide just for the last 3 years. Menticide is the idea of exposing a population to a pressure cooker situation. So we were talking pressure cooker situations and how it would traumatize. You could traumatize a population by putting them into this extreme. I read a little book about that whole concept of how governments or other big evil like things can do this kind of thing, and how it can be done. If you think about what the lockdowns did, like you lock down, lock in, lock out, lock in, lock out, lock in. If you look at it from that perspective, throw my phone away here. If you look at it from that perspective, right, we all there is a degree of PTSD that was trying to be inflicted on anybody. Now, what I was reading a very old book. It was like a 1950s book on this whole concept of conditioning a culture. And the idea of it is that fear can be used to paint a brush of culture. And what happens is in that for about 2 years it works. And then at the end of 2 years, fear dies. Right? And that's what happens is fear dies in various forms or fashions. And if you feel like you're being conditioned in one way or another, and there's a particular group of people responsible for your conditioning, you wake up to that reality and you give them a big giant finger. At that point, I'm doing what I damn well please. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So if you look at now, for 80% of the population, there's so 100% of the population, there's 10% of extremes. There's 10% of people that are always going to be traumatized from this event. Always. They're going to be impacted permanently. And then there's 10% like me who just doesn't give a fuck. Right? And then, and if anything, it made me give a fuck even less, not more. Right? Right. So, right. So those are the extremes. And then there's 80% that kind of goes through the process. Right?
Yeah.
I tend to subscribe to that. Now, again, we're not going to go in too deep into the political spectrum of things. I don't think any of us really want to do that. But what I've noticed, and this is how I always when it comes to big organizations and big governments and all that stuff, I don't look at it from a left, right, or I look at it more from this perspective. Common interest. What is the common interest in everything that's happened over the last few years? So if you want to work at the worst parts of it, in my opinion, right, they are body autonomy, right? They are body autonomy. They are digital currency. I don't think digital currency as a lone thing is a good idea. I'm not against the idea of a digital currency. I'm against the idea of it being the exclusive only way to do transactions. That can get very dicey in a lot of ways. So because that also affects privacy, and wealth and ownership. Like that, those are the big three concerns I have with it. So 1, 2, and then 3, the idea of big government and big companies being able to more infiltrate your lives easier because everybody's so isolated. So these are the worst 3 aspects of it, in my opinion.
I think actually one of the worst aspects of it is that people really forgot how to people.
Yeah.
It's like we forgot how to be human with each other because we weren't around each other. So like, and the places where I see this the most is just the general impatience I see out in the world. There, when you're getting a coffee or there's just a lot, and maybe I didn't notice it before, maybe it's always been there. I've also noticed how people are much worse at driving these days. I don't know if you've noticed this. It's a thing.
I don't drive officially yet. That's going to change in about 6 months.
Oh.
So I'm going to be one of those horrible assholes on the road. I'm going to warn you up front, right? But I'm going to be one of those absolutely horrible assholes on the road. But I say it, but for me, see, again, from the point of view of fear, and also because I was able to do this podcast throughout the entire pandemic, I still have most of my people skills, right? I have most of them. And I still love human interaction and contact. I think what's happened is there's a percentage of people who are now again inundated from that. Hey, I can do everything without pants. And there are days we all like doing things without pants.
100%.
Right. But at the same time, like, okay, so I'll give you an example. I came back to Calgary, hopefully to see some old friends. I've seen a very tiny amount of them, very, very tiny amount of them. And that is a combination of a bunch of things. Like, again, we were still in the pandemic for the first 3 months of this year. So that's part of it. Part of it is, again, it's comfort. Like the dangerous thing about this is there's a comfort aspect to it. I can have distance and shelter. And the thing is, and this is just my opinion on it, if I'm in the same city as you, I want to hang out with you. Fuck distance. Right? This is beautiful is, okay, you're in Chicago, I'm in Calgary right now. This is where this is beautiful. We can bullshit with each other on the air, like here, right now, and not even worry about it. Right? So that's, to me, is great. If you're in the same, I'm having coffee with a really well-known author tomorrow in person. Why? I'm on the screen all the goddamn time doing this shit. Why the fuck do I want to do it for everything? I think you're a complete idiot if you're looking at it from, and that's just where I am. Like, this is where I am. You're a complete idiot if you have friends in the city, right, that you're in, and you're not taking, like, if there's anything that should have taught everybody is nothing's guaranteed forever.
It's true.
So why the fuck wouldn't you not? Again, I'm not saying see everybody every day. We all have lives. But I've been in Calgary or in the Alberta area for about a year. You think, right? 1 hour of coffee wouldn't be a big deal, but it is. So, I mean, this is where I've hit it. Is like, well, if I can't find you motherfuckers here, I'm going to go out and find other people that want to do shit. Because again, life is short. Now, again, I hit that upper echelon extreme that life is like I give a shit less, right? Not more, less than I did before the pandemic. So, right. And because again, it's like, if you've seen death in the face, you just learn how to smile. At one point, you're either going to cower or you're going to learn how to smile, because that's life. Right. So that's where I've hit, like, this idea of wanting to be distant is a terrible one. And I had somebody, like, literally, I came back, she's like, hey, you want to do coffee? And she was hesitant and stuff like that. And she's like, well, I enjoy our pen pal thing. It's like, that made sense when I was in Ontario and you were here. We're in the same city. We should at least see each other once, but they don't want to do it. Right? They don't want to do it.
If you come to Chicago, I will have coffee with you.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's the whole point, right? That's the thing. Like, this is convenient when you're in different places, but if you're in the same city,
there's also a bit of fatigue with this, right? Like
Yeah.
it's it's something it's a new normal that we've all gotten used to, and it's a convenience
Yeah.
that has been wholly welcome. But ha- video calls are not the same as real interaction with real people,
Yeah.
face to face,
Absolutely.
elbow to elbow, you know? It's not the
Yeah.
same,
No, I
but it's
mean,
nice. I don't wanna
no,
I don't wanna I don't wanna discount this because this is nice. I haven't
no,
seen
no,
you in 2 years.
it has its place. I'm not saying it doesn't,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
again, small miracle. We are what? About, we'll say about 1,200 miles apart, give or take.
give or take.
Yeah. And we're having a conversation and we're bullshitting right now. That's awesome. That's a great thing. But again, if I was 20 miles away from you, I wouldn't want that distance because again, we're right. That's where it kind of go. That's where I look at it and go, why are we being distant? We're literally in the same place.
Yeah.
And some people go, it's effort. It's like, yeah, but it's worth it, right? It's worth it.
I mean, I would say that that's not even a that's not even a pandemic thing. I lived in Minneapolis for
Yeah.
13 years, something like that, and there were days I couldn't get people to drive across the city. It
Mhm.
was maybe okay, 45 minutes, but still, it's 45 minutes to get to me or for me to get to you, and you're not interested or willing to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
No. Yeah. And that's it. Like, that's where I've hit. Like, I've hit
Yeah.
that point. It's like, if we're in the same place, because I'm only going to be the city for at most another 6 months full time, right? I'm not planning on being here full time after that. It's going to be harder to get a hold of me after that. And you don't want to hang out?
Damn it.
Okay. Yeah. But that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
but that's the thing. What I've realized is I think what the pandemic did, like that aspect of things, the lack of peopling, it's made it very tempting for people to be like, well, I can do this from the comfort of my own home. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know about you, but like, okay, tomorrow night, I'm like again, and also tomorrow night, I'm playing. I don't know if you're a Magic the Gathering person at all. There's a format called Commander. So a whole
Okay.
bunch of us are getting together. We're going to play Commander. We're going to have like maybe a drink. Some of my other friends will do other paraphernalia as well that needs not be mentioned on the air. And we're just going to have a good time because that's what friends do.
Yeah.
That's it, right? That's the pressure. It's the little things in life
Yeah.
that make them worth living. And if you're going to forego those little things for convenience, honestly, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I will 100% do away with bras forever from this point forward, or from actually 2 years ago forward. And that's okay.
Yeah,
Pants,
I
I
don't.
still wear pants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, like I said, I personally, I look at it like this. Like, here's the other thing too, and I think this is one of the good things. It's forced people to reevaluate what matters to them.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, it's forced people to reevaluate. And honestly, what I've come to again, what I'm trying to be a freelancer full time. I've been on this journey for like 2 years. I don't know if you've been watching it at all or
Mhm.
any parts of it, but I've learned a lot to the point that I don't think I'm ever working full time for somebody again. It's possible, but it'd have to pay me stupidly good money to even think about it.
It I'm gonna be honest with you. It's taken 2 years, but I'm actually fairly close to where you are on that
Yeah.
spectrum. I'm so ready to be done with the day job and just strike out on my own.
Yep.
I'm tired of working so hard for somebody else who really doesn't give two shits about what I'm doing. They don't.
Exactly. Well, no, see, that's the thing. Like, I came to that conclusion 6 years ago. Now, I
Mhm.
wasn't. There's a headspace adjustment you got to kind of do with this a little bit, right? And honestly, it sounds really simple. I broke it down basically to three things. First off, you got to tell you can't worry about fucking up. I know that sounds like one of the worst. That's
Yep.
one of the hardest things about this.
You're going to. You're gonna fuck up.
Fantastically, it's great.
Yeah.
You learn so much doing it. The second thing is you got to believe you're worth it, and that I think is maybe the biggest. I've said this on a few shows. The biggest change I would do in the world, if I could change one thing, is give everybody that sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Because if you did that, I think half the shit that's going on in all these other spectrums would not happen.
Yeah.
Period. Right? But I can't choose. But I also realize, like, this is something I've realized with people in my life, people that are not necessarily in my life anymore as much. We have come to a point, like, I realize, like, self-worth is your own internal battle.
Yeah.
And everybody's got to kind of come to their own equilibrium there. And if you have any real sense of worth, right, you have to realize that you have to set a standard for yourself. And you got to kind of let where people fall on that spectrum be where it is. You can't control other people. That's the other thing too, right? Right?
Yeah. The only and you also can't let other people live inside of your head.
Exactly.
You know, like it's so easy to let the actions of other people and the words of other people live here. And it's like, you want to give them free rent? Like, don't let that, like, they're not paying you for that space. Kick them out. Evict that.
Totally. No, it's one of those things I've learned in this life, that you have to recognize, again, what do you let in your head? What do you let keep in your head? I've added 2 rules to I have my rules of success. They're at 10. They're at 10 now. I think when I saw you, they were at like 4 or 5, but now they're at 10. Right? They're at
That's
10.
productive.
Well, it's just
3 years.
well, no,
Sorry, it's been a knowledgeable, a learned 3 years.
all of it. I've dabbled into drawing. I don't know if you've seen that. I've dabbled
I
into
have. I
drawing.
was actually just about to ask you how it was going.
It's going good. I'm waiting to hear back from 2 publishers. I'm going to be drawing my very first graphic novel. I got published as an illustrator this year as well.
Congrats.
First time ever I've been published as an illustrator. So I actually can have that to my credit now. My future seems to be, I'm going to be a producer of shows for people. And I'm going to be making videos for for creatives that help advertise, because creatives hate that shit for some reason. And I laugh because it's like, it's the same thing you always do. But we'll talk about, like, you, Sophie and the G-Men is a really cool Kickstarter success story. Yeah. My copy of it right now is still in Windsor, Ontario, so I gotta get it up here at some point. But I did get it, and I really love the look and feel of the book. It's really, really fucking cool. Congrats, by the way.
Thanks.
Don't
release a book during a pandemic. That's going to be my lesson to everybody.
I released 3.
Well, okay. Let me put it this way: don't release a book during a pandemic if your main way of selling is in person.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I think that like what I've learned about the whole advertising thing on that is there's 2 parts, right? You sell in person because you're an awesome human being and people gravitate towards you. On the flip side, you got to figure out, okay, how can I bring that personality to the camera? And I'm actually doing, so one of I'm working on a massage therapy show right now. So my client is, I'm trying to get her more comfortable in front of the camera, because what I'm secretly doing, and if she ever does listen to this episode, is I'm making her more comfortable to teach. Because what happens is, as you get more comfortable in front of the camera and talking to people, it's going to be easier for you to actually teach others, and also introduce yourself at panels, presentations. Like, there are invaluable opportunities that if you are too uncomfortable speaking in public, that you deny yourself. And what I'm secretly hoping to do with her is I'm going to make her very more comfortable doing that, because that's where she's really going to make her money.
Yeah.
And I know this.
Yep.
So
this is something that we've actually talked about a lot. So a couple of weeks ago, we were at, I don't even know if I should be talking about this, actually. I'm gonna. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. So a couple of weeks ago, we were at World Fantasy, and we struck up some conversations with some folks, some pros. And which led to a deeper conversation of maybe I should be running workshops professionally instead of just volunteering my time. And I've been doing it for 15 years. I've been teaching people about writing and about pitching and about the business aspects of it. And now I teach painting classes on a Wednesday night on Zoom, which was a COVID hobby, by the way. And it turns out I'm actually an okay painter.
Congrats.
Who knew? But yeah, so we're this is where I get to start exploring the idea of me as a business and the things that I'm good at as a business. By the way, you might see an appearance of my dog. Sometimes she likes to
That's
jump up.
okay.
Okay.
Listen, this show has been held hostage by a 3-year-old. I can handle a dog.
Yeah. She's my COVID baby,
Okay.
and she thinks she's a human.
Okay. Well, she
So,
thinks she thinks part of your pack, right? So yeah, so
yeah.
that's
But
what
but
dogs
I
do.
think she might be headed for the guest bed and not interested in me anymore. She got a couple of head scratches and she's out.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Fair.
She got what she wanted. She got what she wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, so in addition to running the workshops, the other piece of it is we need to start putting content out there on a very regular, very consistent basis, and a lot of it, because the content is what drives the sales. It's what drives the business. It's not going to be. I'm not going to sell a million books just by myself at a convention or whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm preaching to the choir, but this is the facts. So
No, it's the reality
yeah,
of the situation. Am I still there? Am I still
yeah,
there?
I'm still
Okay,
here.
cool. I froze on a second over here. It's like, oh shit, did I crash? But no. So the fact of the matter is, right? When you look at there's two really key ways to market your story, which you
Mhm.
should because you put a lot of effort into it and it's awesome. But the long game is you
Yeah.
because that's the long game because the goal is now if you look at your cover, your title is huge and your author name is tiny.
Tiny.
Now the goal is to go the other way or at least the same size, right?
Eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the goal. And every author who's listening to me right now, if that's not your goal, you're silly. Like you're right. That you're silly. That's the business and the money in doing this is it's your name. People are coming to you, right? People are coming to see you. There's your stories are ultimately how they support you. This is why when you look at like
Mhm.
the big sellers, right? We look at Brandon Sanderson or Anne Kwong or Marissa Mayer or anybody that's been on that's hits that #1 New York Times bestselling list. Those names are big. Like they're really big on there. They're at least the same size as the title. Depending on who it is, their name is actually bigger,
Yeah,
right?
but they didn't start that way.
No,
Usually.
you build
You
to
have to
that,
build
right?
it.
You build to that,
Mhm.
right? So what happens is you have to recognize that, right? Like for me, I try to keep my big title name, right? That's where I'm at right now,
Mhm.
right? But I'm gradually making my name bigger. Why? Because I have a big ass mouth and people know who I am, right. And that's how you got to look at this, right? And that's the whole secret. It's your story will draw people to you, but you can't just unless you hit one of those 1 in a million stories that explode. It happens,
Mhm.
but you shouldn't bet on it because
Nope,
it's not a guarantee,
it's not.
right? But what is a guarantee is if I keep talking to people and I keep opening my big ass mouth, people are gonna eventually gonna laugh. You're laughing,
Yep.
right? That's the best thing. I'm creating humor, even a tiny bit. Like I look at what I tend to do for my audiences. I tend to make them think. I tend to inspire them. I sometimes make them laugh. Those are the three emotional things I resonate with people. So guess what? My books will make you think. My books will actually make you laugh and hopefully inspire you. Even though sometimes the subject matter can be very dark, you can still have
Mhm.
light in those dark places. That's who I am as a creative. So that is how I should be marketing myself.
Yeah.
Right? That's
I
how it should
I
work.
I agree, I agree. Sophie and the G-Man has a lot of fashion aspects of it. You know what? Every time I show up to an event, I'm dressed. I'm dressed for style. I'm dressed for professionalism, but you're not going to forget me either.
No,
Hopefully. Um, on
you
top of
stand out.
that, it's funny, but there's some depth to it. There's a lot of grief in this book. It's really bizarre. Like I did not intend for it to have such deep-seated grief. But you know what? My dad died right after I wrote it right after my dad died. Guess what? Book 2 is going to be just as grief-stricken because I lost my mom since then too. So
I'm
it's like,
sorry.
well, I mean, it was awful and it happened during COVID and she died of lung cancer. So shit happens.
Yes. And I'd give you a hug if I could. That's how.
I
That's
I
yeah. I give you.
appreciate the virtual hug.
Yes.
No, and it was hard, and I don't want to minimize it, but I'm okay. You know, and both her and my dad live on in not in the like it's weird. Like they live on in the words that I write, but they live on in a weird way because it's not the people. I'm not writing them in as characters, but I'm writing the emotions that I felt
Yeah.
and feel into
They.
it. I'm
So
channeling it.
So I mean, people talk about I mean, this concept of immortality isn't new, but the idea is, look, like this week, and I haven't really advertised it very much because from what I can tell, from what again, I don't have the greatest relationship with my mom. I just
Mm.
don't. But this week she's currently in the hospital because she had some kind of like brain infection and had to be like cleaned out, right? Like no, she's and she was reluctant to go, and I understood why because she's had a few brain surgeries. And again, I don't talk about this too much because it's just
Mhm.
like I don't have that close relationship. That for whatever reason she pulled away, and that's on her. And again, I'm not angry, upset, sad, any of
Yeah,
that stuff. It's just it is.
it is.
And but that doesn't mean I don't care. Like I'm mentioning it right now. There is a chance. I mean, it's not a big one, but there is a chance she might not walk away from this.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? But here's the thing. I'm a big part of her legacy, whether even though as close or not close as we are,
Mhm.
I'm a big part of her legacy, whether she realizes it or not. Like just like you're a big part of your parents' legacy. And
Yeah.
when my dad, who I am close with, one day he's not going to be around anymore. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, my dry wit comes from him. So right. So that's where, and other things too. Like your parents are always going to be there, not just in
Yeah.
your books, but as long as you're there. And if you have kids, they too they will follow. And if you don't, I mean, the cool thing about being an author too is very often the books we write are very much about ourselves.
Yes. 100%.
Right? Yeah,
Mhm.
100%. Like what we give a shit about in those moments in time. I'm writing a book. It's a female Parker novel right now. Basically, like what if Parker was an
Oh
assassin?
my
What once
god, that's amazing.
yeah. But here's the thing: she used to be an assassin, and she's
Mhm.
killing evil versions of the Knights of the Round. I'm having fun with that. I made Percival the ultimate used car salesman / genie.
I love it.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I'm having a blast with it. But what I'm really focusing on, because again, what I care about at this point is what is a good person, right? And I realized that like one of the things I loved about the old Parker novels was I don't think he was a good person, but he had a
Oh,
code of honor,
yeah.
and that goes a lot farther with me now than it ever did. And I again, it's not like I don't it's the fact he had a standard, right? And that to me is what makes him fascinating. It's like, yes, he might rob you blind, he might be physical, he's a tough guy, but he has rules, his own rules of how he lives, and they work for him.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, it's true.
admirable, right? And it's admirable. That part of him is very admirable. It's what gives him redeeming qualities. That's why he's not a complete son of a bitch. He's a little bit of a son of a bitch, but he's
Yeah,
not
no, he's a
complete.
little bit of a son of a bitch.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely, right. My main character, she's an assassin that went so far down that path. She's like, can I ever be a good person again? Can you redeem yourself? Can you how do you learn from your mistakes? How do you grow? And you can grow from anywhere is the whole idea, but can you? And again, there's good and bad to her, right? And so I'm having fun with this. But what do I give a shit about at this moment in my life? Right? I don't see a lot of good in a lot of systems in the world today. So if the world is at best an amoral place, what does morality do for you? And that's, to me, is worth exploring.
It keeps us, I guess, from bashing each other in the head with rocks in a
Well,
way. Like,
well,
maybe, I don't know.
well. So one of my thoughts about this is this: people trust me.
Yeah.
Why? Because I keep my word, or I try to keep my word to the best of my ability, anyway. And I'm honest enough to even say that on the air like that, which is something a lot of people wouldn't do, right? So what that means is everything I'm saying here, everything I'm telling people here, right? It's the best I can do at this moment in time. I think people sense that. And it gives me a sense of trust, and it gives me a sense of people going, okay, I can trust this guy. And that goes a lot farther than somebody's like, I can't trust you to tie your shoes. Right? And that sounds terrible, but it's the truth, right? Right? I can't trust you to do certain things. And if I can't trust you, I just realized, like, without that moral, at least the ability to keep a promise, as
Yeah.
simple as that is, most people got nothing.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I'm sketching, by the way, while we're
No worries. Nice
little
mushroom.
mushroom. Yeah, because I also, like I said, I also took up art and drawing during
Yeah,
COVID.
you're better than I am. You're better than I. But
It's just different. It's not
yeah.
no, there's no comparison when it comes to art.
I,
You should not compare.
no. I see. Here's the thing. I'm gonna push back slightly. I think
Push
no,
back, and I'll push back at you.
That's good. Well, we'll talk about it. You have a better grasp of details than I do. You've worked at it more than I have. I can just tell just based on no. I'm being honest
Okay.
about that. I'm being honest about that.
I'm gonna let you have your piece, and then I'm gonna come back at you. So
Okay. Yeah.
go
Okay.
ahead.
But if you're talking about style and idea and getting the idea across, then art is art is art is art is
Mhm.
art is art. It doesn't really matter what it looks like at the grand
That's right.
scheme of things. There's that. However, from a point of view of effort, I think I have to give you the nod. And I'm not saying that like knocking myself. I just think again, there's lots of little nuances you can look at. And I say this not as as belittling myself, or like I could learn from you, because some of the ways you do the details are actually impeccable, and I can admire that. Now, well, right? So that doesn't mean that right, and that doesn't mean that again, I've sold art. So it's not like I
Yeah.
haven't it's not like I can say, which if you haven't, that should give you encouragement, because honestly, if I can do it, you can do it. And I know that's a great thing. Right?
There's another argument there, though, that
You can push back on me now.
monetizing your passion doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do.
Not always. Not always.
And there are times when I think about writing and the monetization of my writing, and I wonder if I do wonder if that obsession or that focus wrecked it in some ways for me. So I've been treating art as an outlet and
Mhm.
a way to create things without expectation. I've had offers where people want to buy things, and I've turned them down. That doesn't mean that makes me special. Maybe it makes me weird, uh,
No.
and that's okay too. I'm fine with that. But it's coming. It's not like I'm. It's not like I know that I know I can sell it. I haven't yet.
So it's not really a pushback. This is just a question.
No, actually, and to push back on you, I was gonna say to like I have a very distinct style when it comes to drawing. I have a
Mhm.
very distinct style, and it's kind of a magical realism thing.
Mhm.
It's a little magical. It's on the realistic side, but that is my style, but that doesn't make it better or worse.
No.
And and as a matter of fact, this is something that I say to my students every Wednesday. I say to them, "Look, I'm showing you how I draw a penguin, but it's your penguin and you can do what you want with it.
Yeah.
And if you wanna make a purple penguin, make a purple penguin. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't so okay.
Make
So
your purple
I
penguin."
so I wanna get to the first part of that because I don't think
Yeah.
it's weird exactly, but there's a caveat I'm gonna add. I'm gonna ask a question. But to the
Mhm,
second part, I completely agree with you. But I also do believe in effort, time, detail.
mhm.
I do think you're more practiced than I am, and I can admire that as there are things to learn. And also, like I said, and as I'm working on my own style, right?
Yeah.
My style's becoming distinct too. I've noticed that, right?
Yeah.
It has a certain I like a certain degree of there's a certain animation in my characters and how they actually express themselves. I've noticed this. So I can tell stories with it, right? And I figured out a little bit of how to do that. So let's go to the first question, the first part of that,
Okay.
what you said there. So here's my general rule. I don't think there's a wrong path to art at all. You can choose to make it a hobby, you can choose to make it money. What I'm concerned about is only one thing. What do you want to get out of it? Because I think like this, right? I know people here who are what I call part-time authors. And they actually acknowledge they opened it. They vote, right? There's one of my favorite guests is a gentleman by the name of Mark Watson. That guy is open and honest about the fact that his family comes first,
Yeah.
right? And you know
Mhm.
what? I totally respect where he's coming from there, right? His family comes first. He his day job makes him incredibly happy too, and then writing is a third priority with him. Now he's damn good at his writing, but I don't argue any of his priorities because again, he has a clear vision of who he is and who he wants to be. And he's a great dad. Not right, like straight up, he's a great dad. So that's who he wants to be. And I don't think
Mhm.
there's any crime in that.
No, not at
Now, not at all. And then I have another gentleman who actually published me as an illustrator. He's a social worker on his day job. He loves his job. He loves his kids, and he loves his comics. But again, kids. Again, he's picked his priorities
all.
in life. He's great at it. His whole thing he calls his company Part Time Comics. Right? He's very again. Those guys have clear, succinct
Yeah.
directions on who they are and who they want to be.
Yeah.
So my question to you is this. I don't think it's weird you don't want to sell your art. My question is, do you really want to? And there's no crime if the answer is no. If the answer is yes, though, what are you waiting for?
So, I don't know if the answer is yes.
That's fair.
I Do I think that my art is good enough to sell?
Yes.
Some of it. Some of it I
No, no,
wouldn't. But, it's not up to me, it's up to the person who
yeah, yeah,
would
but
wanna
again,
buy it.
but bottom line, I think you could find a buyer. I think
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that part to me is not the question.
No,
The
not at
question
all.
is what do you the question is what do you want to do with it?
What I'm getting from it is okay, so let me break this out. Of the creative endeavors that I do a lot of sewing. Specifically, I do a lot of quilting.
Mhm,
Really into colors and piecing things together, which has lent itself really well to painting.
mhm,
And I do a lot of painting and drawing, and then I write.
mhm,
In my brain space when I'm creating, painting and writing complement, but sewing subtracts.
mhm,
So when I paint, it it helps me think about words.
Mhm. Yes, it does.
Whereas with sewing, it takes all of my creative energy, and I don't have any room left in my creative brain to create anymore. So I think where drawing and painting come into play, will I sell it eventually? Maybe.
Yeah.
If somebody loves a piece enough, they really want to buy it, I could be probably persuaded to part with it. A lot of times I just give them the art because it's not about the monetization for me. It's about knowing that somebody's enjoying it. Whereas with writing, I want you to pay me for my words because they take a lot. They're a lot harder. I can draw and I can paint. It comes pretty easily to me. But writing is really hard. So I earned that money. Pay me for my words.
Okay.
Maybe that's
So
kind
no,
of
no, 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 no. I see. You need that. I think you need that in the writing biz. You really do.
yeah.
What I would no. So my very first client wanted me to advertise their Kickstarter for them. And what I realized, and this was my first lesson, it was one of my most important lessons. I had this advice from a gentleman by name Jim Chismar: never work for free for anybody. He's right. He was
Yep.
absolutely right. I didn't work for free with this gentleman, but this gentleman was not going to pay me what this was worth. Right. And what I've learned about that is people will only pay attention when they have enough investment on the table. When they have skin in the game, they care. When they don't, right? When they don't, they are very inclined to walk away. And I've learned this very, very early on. So I'm with you on the writing part. I'm actually with you, like even with the art part, right?
Well, okay, but the other part of the art part is I can tell you no all day, and if you really, really want it, then you'll show me that you really want it.
See, but see, when you say no, like this gets into a very weird space, right? It gets into a
I
very weird
like
space.
weird.
Yeah, but here's the space. I can insist. I can insist, and I can literally watch. One of two things are going to happen. Businesswoman Deanna is going to come out and say, "Okay, how serious are you?" That's one
Mhm,
possibility. The other
mhm.
possibility is boundaries Deanna is going to come out to play and say, I'm not like, there's that like tension of, I've seen it. I've seen it in even my own family. When you're not ready to put your art out there for people to buy, you will resist it all the way to the bank, right? All the way to the bank.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, right. So I've seen it. So when you say no, like, which one am I gonna get if I pushed? Will I get a businesswoman or will I get I'm not ready yet?
I think it's gonna depend on whether you're insistent or persistent,
Yes.
because there's a difference between asking me 100 times right now or, like, pushing the monetary value. Like, I have this mushroom right here, okay?
Hi, Mr. Mushroom.
You wanna buy it for $1. No. How about $5? No. How about 10? No. I said no. I'm not selling it. It's not done. I'm still working on it. I would like to do something else with this mushroom, whatever the reason may be. But if, let's say, 3 days later I post it on Instagram, which I often do, and you say to me, "I loved that the first time you showed it. I can tell you put a little bit of work in it. I still wanna buy it. Can I buy it?" And I still say no, then maybe not. But, or maybe I say DM me. Or maybe it's you see it in the next time you see it, it's in an art show and there it is, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, I get it.
So there's a persistence factor, there's an insistence factor, and then there's it is a little bit like a book though too. There's a point in which you're ready to let that go
Hmm.
because it's done. Or
Yep.
if it's not done, at least it's done enough, which that distinction right there is something that I can proudly say I'm okay with being
Yeah.
done enough.
Yeah. No, no. You get
I don't
to a
need that
certain
shit to
point.
be perfect. I need it to be done.
Yeah, no, no, I am 100% with you on that
Yeah.
last part, 100%. But no, that's why I'm asking. Like when
Yeah.
when I hear that no,
Yeah.
right? Y- And
Because no is
that's
no, right? No is
well,
no.
no is no, and yeah, I'm going to respect that boundary, right? And as a general rule of thumb, and I say that because again, personal experience, I've seen it. I've seen it when in the family, right? Where, hey, you should really go for this, and this. And I've watched that resistance build,
Yeah.
build, because it's not the talent, it's the desire, which is why
Yeah.
I always ask people, what do you want? Because it gives
Yeah.
me a clear vision of whether or not, because once I understand what you want, I can kind of say, okay, maybe you should go forward. Maybe you should not go forward. Again, it's once you have that clear vision, I have no qualms with what you do. It's when you right.
I had this exact same conversation with somebody at World Fantasy
Yeah.
about, because we were talking about her book, and you know, what do you want? Do you just want to see your name in print? Because that's easy. You can just
Mm,
put it up on Amazon and your name is in print. But do you want people to read it? Do you want what do you want out of publication?
mhm,
I mean, and
absolutely.
that is really the question that everybody's got to ask themselves, whether it's with art or it's publishing or any creative endeavor, really.
And in writing, that's the first question. There's a second question too. This is because it's a little harder today than it used to be. In one sense, I've said this: publishing has decentralized. So
Oh yeah,
since it's decentralized, then the second question is this: who do you want to read it? Because that's because again, so you publish on. I'm doing my first Kickstarter next year. Stick Figure Revolution, my Dr. Seuss Golden Storybook is going to be my very first Kickstarter. I'm hoping March or April.
okay,
We're gonna see it. The ups and downs of I decided to go freelancing all the way. So it
yeah,
looked like this month. This month I was gonna clear my first ever $3,000 month as a freelancer. It looked like it, and then things just got nope, not this month. It's like no, but that's okay. Shit happens, right? But the thing is, eventually I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to have the money to do everything I want to do, and when I do that, I'm going to be like, this will be ready to go. I've already
yeah.
talked to a couple people for variant covers. It's going to be a comic book version and a golden storybook version. I'm a Dr. Seuss fan.
I
So
love it.
yeah, no, because it's again, Kickstarter is a collector's audience. So you got to think like, what would collectors want? Because that's going to be the shit that draws. That's why
Yeah,
novelists struggle so hard on Kickstarter, because they don't think like a collector. What does a collector want? Now, if you start thinking like a collector, and by the way, I don't think it's impossible to turn books into collectible items. I think it's actually easy, but you got to learn how to think like that,
yeah,
right? And that's the Kickstarter audience. Then there's still the traditional publishing audience, which
yep.
is now still a niche. Now, whether it's a big house or a small house, it's a
Wow.
niche,
The
right?
big houses are shrinking,
Well,
and
the big houses. I don't know. Are you a video game fan at all?
I'm not, but the household is.
Okay, so I'm sure you've seen this game on the computer. Then it's about a snake that eats stuff and gets bigger,
Yes,
bigger, bigger, bigger,
yes.
bigger, and one shot just burst.
IO Snake or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So that is the publishing industry. The other thing is that like that big giant ass snake that's about one hit away from going poof. Right? There's going to be handfuls. There's going to be handfuls of authors in like okay. You look at someone like okay. Brandon Sanderson has an interesting problem. He's proven that he doesn't need the traditional publishing house, but there are services they can offer him that he may
yes,
want to go pursue.
yeah.
Right? He doesn't need it. And there's people like I've interviewed Marissa Mayer on the podcast. She's not going to
Mhm.
go anywhere either because they're treating her great. And they honestly, why would she leave? She's kicking ass,
But then
right?
you look at like Gail Carriger, for example, who was with traditional publishing, and now she's doing it on her own, and she's
Yeah.
been just as successful, if not more so.
Then there's like someone like Alana Andrews. Same thing.
Mm.
The husband and wife team. They've been doing it too. And
Yeah,
again, there's no wrong answer anymore now.
it
But
really
the
isn't.
thing is, there isn't. So the question is, and also, I mean, look, I published a little 20-page chapbook and it got nominated for an award. So I mean, and I did that as an indie. So I
Yeah,
mean, I do I need a publishing house? It depends on the audience I want to read it. That's
But
the thing.
it also depends on what you want
Hmm.
as a writer,
Yep.
because you can do it all on your own. But it's not easy to do
No.
everything on your own.
And you really don't do everything on your own. You eventually get other people to help you
Yeah, you have to
because
hire out. But
yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't, and this is a conversation that I've had with so many fresh authors. I'm gonna call them
Mhm.
fresh because it's not that they're new, it's just that maybe they've never published and they're getting really close to self-publishing. And it's like, okay, have you done the math? Have you thought out the time that you're going to spend on all of these other factors that will take away from the time that you normally spend writing? Because and are you willing to sacrifice time for marketing and time for like if you're going to do all of these other things, are you willing to sacrifice that? And if not, then are you willing to pay for it?
Yep. And the other
Because you
thing
got
too, and the only thing I'm going to say, folks, on the marketing thing, you're still going to do it no matter what you want to do at this point,
you
right?
have to.
You have to, unless you are like again, unless you're that one in a billion, like literally that one in a billion, and and that's the odds. That's the odds.
Yeah,
One in
I
a
know.
billion.
But and it doesn't stop people from thinking they're going to be though, which I think is just really endearing and really impractical. But like keep that hope alive. Like maybe you will. Maybe you will be.
Well, see, hey, here's the thing. I think you can build yourself up into being a hit. I think anyone can do that.
Yes.
Given enough time, you can become that hit. But to the first part, see, I read Orwell. I'm sure you picked up on. I've read Orwell. So I don't believe in the lottery. I actually legitimately do not believe in the lottery, and it's because of Orwell I don't believe in the lottery.
I just I don't I don't think anything is luck in this industry. I think it's everything is hard work.
Oh, I see. I feel like there's a bit of So I'm going to talk about one of my rules of inspiration.
Okay.
That's the fourth rule. The rest is rain. So no, that sounds like again, when you hear that, you're like, what does that mean? So I've talked to like some really smart people in the industry will tell you that the paradox of success is you can do absolutely everything correctly and no one can still buy your stuff. It happens.
Yeah.
Consequently, if you don't do any of those steps, you have no chance because what you've done is you have now created an obstacle, you, in the way of your own success. Even
Yeah.
if you do succeed at that point, you've left money on the table. So no matter how you look at that, you've done fucked up, right? Whereas the first part about this, if you do everything you know how to do, I think it's one thing to make a mistake and you're not aware of it. That's a little different because you can learn from that and grow from that and change from that, right? But you got to do everything you know how to do up front, but there's no guarantees what's going to happen. And that's the part. So what I feel is like, I look at, again, I talked about this with Marissa actually when she was on the show. She's like, well, I got lucky. It's like, kind of, you're not lucky because you're still exactly, you
Yeah.
stayed.
You wrote a book. B, you finished. Like if you don't finish, you can't even get started. And then
Mhm.
C, you did all of the other things to get you in front of somebody who will actually care enough to open the pages.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's, again, you can't control how many do that.
Right.
And that is the one part I will say. I'm not gonna say it's exactly a luck factor, but there's definitely a bit of random chance there,
Sure.
right? So there's random chance there. Like I can't you do everything right. I can only promise you that like you do everything right. You're putting it out there the correct way. That's all that's all you're
Yeah.
guaranteed to do. Now, it's entirely possible, right, that your book will sell for the best of reasons, i.e., Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Holy shit, is that good? That's great. Or for the worst of reasons, 50 Shades of Grey. Oh my God, can you believe this book? Not that E.L. James doesn't cares. anything about our opinion on it, right?
Oh,
But
neither one of those authors care.
yeah,
Not
exactly.
really.
No, they don't. They don't give a fuck
Yeah.
because they hit,
Well,
right?
what I will say to that is there are there are writers out there who do care if you read their book versus writers who care if you just buy it.
Yep. No,
My
that's true.
my household is a perfect example. Blake wants everybody who buys his book to read it.
Yep.
I I don't care. Buy my book.
No,
I would love for you to read it because I
I,
think it's a pretty good
I'm
book.
somewhere between column A and column B because I gotta say something. There's nothing quite like someone talking about your work and going, "Oh my god, that's great." There's nothing quite like that.
You're
I
right.
love that. I love that shit. But at the same time, I completely get what you're saying too. It like the business mind goes, does it really matter? No, it doesn't. Not
Mhm.
really. But here's the thing. I do want people to read. There is a little business of it though. If someone really reads and really loves it, you know what they're going to do? They're going to tell their friends, right? So I'm somewhere between column A, column B,
No,
right?
you're right, you're right, and I'm
Yeah,
probably somewhere between column A and column B as well. I
yeah,
think that there are plenty of people who are, "I just want you to buy it, and I don't care either way." Um, he gets upset at the thought that people aren't reading his book, and I'm just like, "Okay, I want them to read it, but if it's at the bottom of their TBR pile, I'm just grateful." Like, honestly, everybody who's bought my book, I don't know them all personally. I know a good chunk of them personally. I haven't sold a ton of books. It's fine. I released poorly during a poor time. When book 2 comes out, hopefully soon, um, it's all gloves are off.
yeah,
It's fine. But I will say the people who have read it have said so many wonderful things to me that it bolsters my spirit. It makes me feel
yeah.
guilty as fuck that I haven't written the next one.
I wouldn't feel too guilty. You probably again, you're doing a lot of other things.
I mean, it makes me feel guilty, and I can't say why, but it makes me feel a little guilty because
I know why. I know why. Because there's a little part of you. There's a little part of you that says you could have written this by now.
well, there's that. Absolutely. I could have written it twice over.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that I have this is actually fun. So I had the ending written, and we were on our way to New Orleans, and I looked at Blake and I just looked at him and I started typing in my phone. I don't know where it came from, but all of a sudden I was like, this is wrong. And I started thinking about it. Like, my ending for my book is wrong. And then I rewrote the entire ending and I was like, this is right. So now I actually feel like the ending was wrong. And I think I knew that. And that was one of the things holding me back. It's right now. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. But and I've already got part of book 3 written, so it's ridiculous. I write in very fragmented, like,
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I don't have
copy.
in 2020 I wrote 2 books. In 2021 I wrote 3. 2022 I've written none. Like I haven't finished writing anything, right? Now, I've done lots of things,
Yeah.
right? So I don't really feel like guilty about it, but at the same time like I realize too I've learned there's a fine balance, right? Because again, in my head, I could have written a book this year, and I still might. Like honestly, this novel
Oh,
I
you
just
still
talked
got
to
a
you.
month and a week,
Yeah,
2
yeah.
weeks?
There's a very good chance I'm going to finish at least one, right before the year's up, but maybe 2. We'll see. Right, but like next year, I already know what I'm writing next year. I already know what I'm doing next year, and it's like I'm excited about that. And but I mean, but again, I for me, it's like this. There's 2 paths. This podcast is at nearly 1,000 episodes. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, I've done almost 450 episodes since 2 years ago. Like, it's been crazy, right?
That is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's also amazing.
Mhm. And yeah, but and again, and I'm looking at where do I take it next, which is why in 6 months I'm not going to be full time in the city anymore. Right? That's the plan. Now, it might take me a little longer. It might be 8 or 9 months. It doesn't matter. And like my days of being here full time are numbered, regardless of what people think, want, whatever. I've already made that decision in my head. It's like I've got other shit I want to do. And one of the things I want to do with this show is, so I got a whole bunch of authors that I've kind of like, I've been very authors, comic creators, like other really cool people from all over. I kind of want to meet them in person, and most of them feel the same way. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be traveling through Canada and the United States both via like Mystery Machine style band. I might be living in my band for the most part, but like I don't care.
Hey, van living became a thing.
Yeah,
in the last 2 years. It's cool.
Yeah. I like at this point in my life, I give no shits. Like I said, I went the other way. I went, well, like everybody's like, oh my God, the world's, no, fuck that. I got shit to do. I don't care. I'm going to do it. I don't care if the world's ending. If I see a meteor, I will wave. I give no fucks. But, I basically, I've come to that point realization that, life's a precious thing. And what I want to do is the next step for me was take the show legitimately on the road. I had this really, really fun idea of doing ice cream and Baileys with everybody because everybody likes ice cream and everybody likes booze. Yes.
I've been craving a mudslide for like a week.
See?
A week. I might, at the end of this call, I might actually put in an order. This is the thing I love about Chicago. I can get everything delivered, and I can get everything delivered late. It's great. It's like living in New York.
It's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's not. See, of the 3 cities, I might be able to tolerate. Like New York and LA are too big for me. They're just too big. I get the New York has this like very Torontonian vibes. Like Toronto's like in comparison. There's like a inbred hostility in the city. Like no matter what you do, it's just there, right? I've lived in Detroit. Detroit's probably a more violent city, but I felt safer in Detroit. And I cannot fully explain that to you, but that's New York. LA is just this big, giant clusterfuck. That's what it is.
Sprawl. And so I just recently went to LA. I took my youngest niece as her 18th birthday / graduation present. And we had a blast, and we spent some time downtown. It was really, really good. Had one of the best pasta dishes I've ever had in my life. I don't want to live in LA, but I can see the appeal in some ways.
It's too big. Like that's where I'm at. Like it's just too big for me.
It's too broad for me. It's not even about the bigness.
Even New York has kind of like the same thing. It's just different. Like New York's smaller in terms of that sprawl, but just all that people and all that energy around me all the time. I would get sucked into the hostility at some point, and I would like again that would not be cool. I just don't. And LA is weird because it's like it's a weird bubble town. It's like it's a sprawling bubble. Depending on what part of the city you're in, like there's a certain mindset in every part of it. And it's like there's a flavor for everybody. I'm sure of it. I am sure of it. But at the same time, I feel like it would be a lot of work to look for my kind of bubble. So, right, visiting LA, I might enjoy more outside of maybe the traffic. Traffic sucks balls there. But besides that, it's like they're too big. Chicago feels kind of like it's not quite as insane. It still has its moments, but it doesn't feel quite as.
It has a nice compactness to it.
Yeah.
So we've got a really nice downtown, beautiful architecture. So I unabashedly love my city.
Yep.
I didn't grow up here. This is not my hometown, but it's your home. Hometown of my heart.
Yeah, it's your home.
I love Chicago. We only had to burn it down in order to build it up into the amazing architecture.
That's why Chicago's called the second city, ladies and gentlemen.
It's by the way, if anybody ever comes to Chicago, do the Architecture River Tour. I've done it 4 times. I will do it 4 more times in the next 2 years. It's fine. It's great. Do it. I love it because people came here and dreamt up whatever they wanted, and then they built it.
Yeah.
And they're still doing it. Like, people are still coming and building incredible buildings. I love it because it's a little bit on the questionably corrupt side.
Yes, there's no doubt about that one.
About it. I joke about the Illinois gubernatorial retirement plan being prison, but I mean, it's not entirely untrue. 4 of the 10 previous governors have actually gone to prison.
Yeah, no, like again, there's this. So I live in the United States. The one thing I will say, this is the United States in general, not just Canada. Your corruption is so much more out in the open in some
Oh,
ways.
yeah.
It's
We don't lie
oddly,
about it. It's just there.
no, it's oddly refreshing. Here, right here, it's like, well, we're not corrupt. It's like, no, you are. You just you. It's just polite. That's the difference, right? You got a polite corruption, and they have a blatant one,
Yeah,
right? So,
we're pretty blatant.
yeah.
One of the other, and this is my last fun fact about Chicago, but if you ever come here and you ask about the water, like, oh, how's the water in Chicago? The people in this city will immediately, without pause, say, the water is great. It's amazing. It's the best water you'll ever have. And do you know why?
Why?
Because we reverse engineered our water to send all of our trash water to St. Louis. We reverse engineered our river to send our trash, polluted garbage water to St. Louis, and they still haven't forgiven us, by the way. Nor do I blame them.
Wouldn't.
Oh, right.
I wouldn't either. I'd be a little pissed at you. Yeah, no, you're okay with it, but
also Chicago water is great. Like, it's delicious.
No, you're on the, if I'm not mistaken, that is Lake Michigan water, to be specific.
Yes.
So yes. So I used to, again, Detroit, Great Lakes. I know all about them. I know all about them. They're good. Our water here is good too, apparently. But like I said, I look at it. Like I said, I will when I do drive down to see. Well, I'm sure Blake would love to come back on the show at some point, right? I broke him the last time he came on the show, so I broke him. So because I'm a silly motherfucker and he knows it, and just something just tickled him the wrong way. He literally breaks down like in the middle of things. Like, you actually broke me on that. It's like, yeah, I know, I'm good at that. But I say it like that because what I'm planning on doing is like looking at Chicago. Like, I've always enjoyed visiting it outside of your airport. Your airport sucks. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna like that. Your
if it
airport
wasn't my home airport, like I literally would book anywhere so that I wouldn't have to lay over at O'Hare. But now that it's my home airport, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's a fucking nightmare. It's a fucking nightmare. Like, that airport is. I'd rather do LAX. And I'm not crazy about LAX either, but I mean, it makes more sense. O'Hare, I have never had to run from one end. Like, I went from one end to the other end to get between my flights, and I just made it. And the only reason I made it was I ran for like the last 10 minutes. Like, that is how big O'Hare is. And it's like, why? It's insane. Like, it's fucking insane. It's like this is the worst airport I've been in my whole life. But it's sorry. I am going to knock you guys for that. But that all said, I am going to knock you.
All right, well, we'll take it because I don't disagree with you.
I don't think anybody disagrees with me on that one. It's like, oh God, you're in O'Hare. It's like, what are you going to do? Run like the wind. That's what I'm going to do. Run like the fucking wind. But because where is it? No, my luck, it's on. Yes, it's on the fuck. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Okay. Run and hope to God my luggage is in the plane, because I right, hope.
So, another fun fact: O'Hare is technically in Chicago, the city of Chicago. It's within the city limits. But if you look at this, like a city map of Chicago, the city runs along the highway.
Mm-hmm.
It has to pass through a suburb, Rosemont, in order to get to O'Hare.
Mm-hmm.
Rosemont was cool with that because it meant that they got Chicago City water.
Yes.
So
the things you learn on this episode.
Trade-offs and corruption.
Yeah, it's like yes, and also fuck you, St. Louis. Apparently,
Well, I mean, yeah, like I don't actually I love St. Louis. I love their beer. I have friends in St. Louis. I
St.
don't actually want them to die of polluted water. Sorry about the people who lived here previously who did that to St. Louis people.
Yeah. No, it's
I'm
just
not
like
responsible. I
no.
do find it a fun fact, though.
Yeah, no, it's just like, oh man, no. If I'm St. Louis, I might hate you guys just a little bit, and I understand. I do. I can't
Me too.
look. I live in Detroit, and Detroit's not that far from Flint, Michigan. I saw the water in Flint, Michigan. It's like, no, God, no, right?
Yeah, yeah,
God, no. Like,
that's
if it's even close to that, I can't. I cannot blame them one
no,
little bit. So
not even.
that all said, hmm. So you got so basically on what you're telling me, you're getting ready, you're gearing up to do more shit.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So what are your goals next year? Since we're kind of, I think we're in the in between things right now. What are your goals?
So, couple of goals. We're hoping to launch at least one workshop next year. TBD on any of the details at this point. It's probably going to be about a 6 to 9 month time frame at minimum, just to get everything set up. So goal number one, get that part of the business launched. Goal number two is publish the sequel to Sophie and the G-Man, which is called The Case of Too Many Albans. It's a bit of a spoiler in that title, but not really. You kind of get that pretty fast in book one. So The Case of Too Many Albans, and then if I'm really on top of it, book three will follow very shortly after, which is ridiculously Sophie and the Cluck Cluck affair. Yes, it involves
Okay.
chicken.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. It better with that title. It better involve chicken with that title. And I'm a little scared to which she just rubbed her hands, ladies and gentlemen, a little frightened with the. I almost feel sorry for the chicken, and I don't even know what it's about yet. It's like
No, the
poor
chickens
chicken.
are loved. The chickens are loved. You should feel
Chicken.
sorry for a chicken, just not the chickens.
Okay. So, no animals were harmed in the making of this book.
No,
Just the
technically
ones
they're
in,
not animals.
yeah, no, and technically just in Deanna's head. That's okay, right? Yeah, but okay. So I guess so. I'll tell you mine.
Okay.
One Kickstarter,
Yes.
at least one Kickstarter next year. I want to do 3. I'm crazy, but we'll see how it all plays out. Yeah, you
Okay.
can't. Yeah.
No, like you can do it.
Oh no,
It's
it can be. I already and just so we are clear, I do understand what that actually entails. I really do. Right. My next goal, yes, I will hit 1,000 episodes next year, and then when I break that, that's when I am probably out of the city as a full-time resident. I might still be here part-time. It depends on what my contracts are like at that point,
yeah.
right? Right. But I for me, my goal is like, okay, literally, I was 3 weeks ago, I had hit my first ever time. Like I said, I first like again, not $3,000 a month as a freelancer is good money, right? That
That's
was
pretty
that close.
good.
That was that close, right? It was literally in my hands, and then the universe said, "Nope, not right now." And I'm like, "Oh, right." But that tells again, a lot of people might be discouraged. It's like, no, I'm literally if I'm at the door of that, that means I'm going to get that sooner or later, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So my other goal is again when I get to the van life podcast aspect of it. My another goal, and I'm saying this right now, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to see if I can get people to sponsor me to do that because why not, right? And
Right? What do you have to lose?
exactly, and I even know exactly who I'm going to hit, which are beer companies and ice cream places.
Yep.
Because like, what's the whole theme? It's like we're going to eat ice cream and drink booze on the show and talk about writing stuff. And you're like, right, and well, even and at that point, I'll just sponsor you. Who's going to watch the show? I think a lot of people. I think people will actually pay to watch people eat ice cream and make an ass of themselves on the air.
Yeah.
I think people would pay for that. It's already better than most of the shows on television right now, anyway. Right. That as a concept. So, that's goal number 2, and goal number 3 is meet some of the amazing people I have met on this digital platform. Actually, close the distance. and do some really, really cool things and live an adventure for a couple years and see where it takes me next. And that's kind of
Yeah.
it. Like life's too short. So you gotta do your shit.
Yep. Do what you want.
Yeah. That's it. And be clear about what you want and have a vision of where you're going, folks. You do that, nothing can stop you.
That's right. That's right.
I think Miss Deanna, we have an interview here. What do you think?
I think this is pretty good. This is
Yeah.
pretty good. I enjoyed this very much.
Yeah. You need. I think. Yeah. It's just this is what I do.
I love it.
Yeah. This is what I do. This is who I am. So let's see. We got to promote something here. We talked a little bit about your book. I mean, is your book available where people can buy it somewhere over the rainbow?
Yeah, it sure is. Let me grab the link for you.
Yeah.
Where do I do that?
You so you can send it to the private chat in here.
Perfect.
Right? And then send me that as well to the Facebook when this is over, because no, that's not it, guys. That is not it. Oopsie. That is not what that is trained professional here, ladies and gentlemen. They gave me an award for this show. Can you believe that? That's the correct link. That's the correct link.
Clearly you're doing something right. So.
I am very fortunate. Like I said, I said this with my last guest, is everybody on this show that I've had can do incredible things, you included, and it's about where you want to go, and that is always the end of the day. So for anyone watching this, rookcreek.com/sophiesterns.html is where you want to go if you want to buy any of her books. Your courses are up there too, I'm assuming, and other things.
They are not. Those have been private thus far, but they are going to be going public here in 2023. So,
all right. So
stay tuned.
Check out our courses. How about your Zoom meeting? Is that available to everybody, or just
the Zoom?
The Zoom painting. Do you want to mention that here, or do
you not yet? 2023 is when I'm looking to do things via Zoom for the public in general. So stay tuned. That is coming. Just getting things set up for larger audiences.
I'll do this again then. Check out her books. They're very Sophie, much like the books herself, is very entertaining. So definitely go enjoy the ride. And beyond all that, folks, if you are interested, I do advertising services. I do video, audio, words, and pictures for your brand, your project, or yourself. I'm pretty good at bringing out the best in people, if I say so myself. So I'm going to toot my own horn there.
I'll toot it too.
Yeah. And that will do it today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to just check real quick before we wrap this bad boy up. I have another guest tomorrow. I know I do, if my link ever clicks, because it's just technology. Screw it. I'll just do this. Hold on a second. It's trying. It did. It finally worked. Who am I interviewing tomorrow? It's still not telling me. It's evil. It's evil. I might not be interviewing anyway. Screw it. Whatever. This doesn't care.
Friday. Take Friday off.
Yeah, I got stuff I can do Friday. It's not. I like I said, I'm playing Commander Friday night, so I can actually just go straight there. I'm just gonna try one more time, see if anyone's actually coming in. But if not, fuck it. I'm taking the day off.
Fuck it.
Right? Because I'm boss like that, or I don't know, something. Anyways. That'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, however you did this. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next time.